Have you ever seen a photograph that just stops you in your tracks? A black and white image, decades old, yet it feels so immediate, so powerful, it could have been taken yesterday. One such photo captures a simple yet profound moment. An Italian woman elegantly dressed, carefully wiping the lipstick from her lips before casting a ballot. It's a quiet act, but it speaks volumes about a pivotal moment in history. This wasn't just any election. This was June 2, 1946. For the first time ever, the women of Italy were granted the right to vote. To truly understand the weight of this moment, we need to rewind the clock. Imagine Italy in the early 20th century. For women, life was largely defined by traditional roles within the family and the church. The public sphere, the world of politics and power, was a world built by men for men. The prevailing belief was that a woman's place was in the home, raising children and managing the household. Politics was considered too complex, too dirty, and frankly, unsuitable for the delicate female mind. But beneath this placid surface, the currents of change were stirring. Early feminist movements, known as femminismo, began to emerge in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Brave women like Anna Maria Mozzoni campaigned tirelessly for legal reforms, including suffrage. They argued that without the right to vote, women were not full citizens. They were subjects, not participants in their own country's destiny. The path was long and arduous. Bills were introduced in Parliament, debated, and ultimately defeated time and time again. The political establishment and a significant portion of society just wasn't ready. The fight for the vote seemed more hopeless than ever. But war, as it often does, changed everything. World War II devastated Italy. As men were sent to the front lines, women stepped into roles they had never occupied before. They worked in factories, ran farms, and kept the country running. Crucially, thousands of women joined the Resistenza, the Italian resistance movement against the fascists and their Nazi allies. They served as partisans or partigiani, risking their lives as couriers, saboteurs, nurses, and even combatants. They fought and died alongside men for the liberation of their country. This sacrifice could not be ignored. As the war drew to a close and Italy lay in ruins, the question of its future hung in the balance. How would the new post-fascist Italy be built? The men who led the provisional government, many of whom had fought in the resistance, knew they owed a debt to the women who had fought beside them. The partigiani had proven their courage, their intelligence, and their patriotism beyond any doubt. To deny them the vote now would be an unthinkable betrayal. So, in 1945, with the war over, the Bonamy Decree was passed. It finally granted the right to vote to all Italian women over the age of 21. The very first opportunity for them to exercise this right came a few months later in local administrative elections. But the true test, the big moment, arrived on June 2, 1946. This was no ordinary election. Italians were being asked to decide on two monumental questions. First, should Italy remain a monarchy, which had been deeply discredited by its association with Mussolini's regime? Or should it become a republic? Second, they would elect representatives to a constituent assembly, the body that would write the new constitution for the reborn nation. The very soul of Italy was on the ballot. And so, on that historic Sunday, nearly 13 million women walked to the polls for the first time. Imagine the atmosphere. There was a mix of excitement, solemnity, and a touch of nervous apprehension. For generations, they had been told this was not their world. Today they were claiming it. Eyewitness accounts from that day describe women dressing in their Sunday best, as if they were going to church or a major family celebration. Because in a way, it was both. It was a sacred right of citizenship and a celebration of a new beginning. They often went in groups, mothers, daughters, sisters, and neighbors, supporting each other on this momentous journey. And this brings us back to that simple, powerful gesture, wiping off the lipstick. Why did they do it? It wasn't a rule. No one told them to. This act came from a place deep within. To understand it, we need to think about what the ballot paper represented. In order to vote, a citizen had to lick a stamp and affix it to their sealed ballot. The act of voting was an anonymous, secret expression of one's conscience. Lipstick, on the other hand, is a mark of individual identity. A smudge of red on the ballot could, in theory, be seen as a way of signing or identifying your vote, invalidating the principle of the secret ballot. But it was more than just a practical concern. This gesture was deeply symbolic. These women were taking their new responsibility with the utmost seriousness. They understood that voting was not a frivolous act. It was a civic duty of the highest order. Wiping away their lipstick was a way of wiping away the personal, the cosmetic, the feminine adornment, to approach the ballot box not as a woman in the traditional sense, but as a citizen, an equal. It was an act of purification, a sign of respect for the democratic process they had fought so long and hard to be a part of. They were entering a sacred space, and they wanted to do so with clean hands and clean lips. The result of that vote was transformative. The Italian people chose to abolish the monarchy and establish a republic, and the women's vote was decisive. They had literally helped to birth a new nation. 21 women were also elected to the Constituent Assembly, where they played a crucial role in drafting one of the most progressive constitutions in the world, at the time enshrining gender equality as a fundamental principle of the new Italian Republic. Today, more than 75 years later, it's easy to take the right to vote for granted. But this story, this image of a woman wiping her lipstick, is a vital reminder. It reminds us that democracy is not a given, it is earned. It is fought for, bled for, and must be cherished. It reminds us of the quiet dignity and profound seriousness with which those first-time voters approach their duty. Their gesture was a promise to be engaged, to be responsible, and to be counted. It's a lesson that resonates just as powerfully today every time we step into a voting booth. It tells us that every single vote is a precious legacy passed down to us by those who understood its true worth. Thanks for watching.